Welcome to the November 19th, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And no third one this week, but we will be back with a dose of Facathon most likely next week. So
Yeah, for now, we'll have to just stick with the second person. So from now on, everything we say will have to be about you and your... You sure have some interesting news today, audience. What?
This is a fifth-person narrative. This guy told me that this guy...
Yeah. A friend of a friend.
Yeah. I heard that some guy did this. There's actually like a couple second-person games out there.
Well, yeah, choose your own adventure.
Yeah,
like all of
I guess...
them. Like you enter a corridor. What do you do?
Yeah, that is kind of
like
weird.
Zork,
isn't it?
yeah, like that. Like because I was trying to think, like when I was a kid, and like I forgot if it was elementary or middle school. Whenever we really started learning about this stuff, what was like, can you think of a second person book? Like not really. And they mentioned the choose your own adventure book. So it's like, oh.
I mean, this is kind of like a debate, but you could say that Robot Alchemic Drive is kind of a second person game.
I wouldn't know.
But well, see, it is first person because you are in like looking through somebody's eyes, but you're controlling a robot like somewhere else, and you have to like find a place to perch yourself so you don't get like trampled by the giant robots fighting.
Well, that's clever.
Actually kind of funny. Yeah, it's really interesting, but also like you have to get in a good angle to view the fight that's going on, and it's
sure, yeah.
So it's a little you can get caught up in the weeds in that game, but anyway, we do have plenty to talk about here this week. So I wanted to first of all talk about this because this is something that I mentioned a few weeks back, and it kind of goes along with my speculation. But Devolver put out a teaser tweet about Exit the Gungeon, which is currently an exclusive title for Apple Arcade. This is their like run and gun spin-off game, like a side-scrolling run and gun featuring the world of Enter the Gungeon. And for all intents and purposes, it's like one of the best games for Apple Arcade right now, from what I understand. But I'm not interested in joining Apple Arcade, so I always was kind of hoping that it would come to other platforms. They just tweeted out recently. They put out like a general tweet. What other platforms are you looking forward to seeing Exit the Gungeon on?
Basically anything but what it's currently on. Just give me something. I don't care.
And you're for sure going to see it on the most popular platforms if they're saying that. At least on Android. But I'm sure if they're saying multiple platforms, they fully intend to put it everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be more than just like iPhones or Android phones. Like there's going to be PC and console, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure there will be a Switch version and a PC version, and
well, yeah, because there are for regular Gungeon is on everything.
It's on PS4, so
PS4,
I really
Switch,
don't have a
and
doubt.
PC. Is it on Xbox? Regular Enter the Gungeon?
It should be. I'm pretty sure it is.
If it's on PC, then there's a decent chance.
I mean, Enter the Gungeon is a very popular game, so I would assume that it's on everything. And I first played it on PC, but it has since gone everywhere. And I played it most on the Switch just because of its nature.
I got the PS4 physical copy, but like, if I wait to play it, it'll probably be better to get it on the Switch, just because me just being up my own ass about physical copies. I think the Switch version is complete.
Yeah, they just released the physical version of that for Switch, and I think it has the updates on it.
It was via SRG, but it's also just in stores.
Yeah, you can get it at Best Buy.
SRG did that with Best Buy. SRG, and GameStop, I think.
Oh, okay.
But SRG did that with Metal Wolf Chaos as well. It's like GameStop exclusive and SRG.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good method, and I think many times when they do that kind of thing, they do different cover art for both versions, which is a nice way to reward anybody who is trying to collect like the SRG
Yeah, and
specific
the SRG
ones
version
and
has
that
more
kind of.
swag. Like Metal Wolf
Yeah.
Chaos has a different cover, but also like a manual and a couple like stickers or something or pins or whatever.
Sure, sure. Well, I'm just excited for this because I suspected they said launching exclusively on Apple Arcade, and I was like, that is specifically tailored. Like that sentence is specifically tailored to hint that they are not keeping it there
Well,
forever.
yeah, it says it's launching exclusively there, not that it is an Apple Arcade exclusive.
Yeah, but there's always
It's
a chance that it
semantics, I
won't
know,
happen.
but like, it's like the hedging your bet equivalent of like an announcement.
Well, they also didn't comment on their plans for it, so
Okay.
there's always some nervousness, depending on how popular it is or how well it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
How or whether they get sidelined with doing something else, whether they'll have the time to get around to it. But this is one of Devolver's like big ticket items.
Yeah, it's
So
really big.
along with the Hotline Miami, it's probably their most two popular titles.
Yeah, those games
Um,
really just took the gaming community by storm when they respectively came out and were updated. Well,
yeah,
Hotline Miami wasn't updated, but like there's a sequel.
sure, sure. I mean, they're still doing really well. I mean, my friend Pedro is very popular as well. So,
Yeah, also
um,
available on stores and via SRG, by the way.
oh yeah, good stuff. They
It's
must
another
have
one of
a
those.
good relationship with them. So, I'm happy for this, especially since I love run and gun titles and I love Enter the Gungeon. So,
Yeah,
it's a win-win for me.
yeah. I mean, I freaking platinumed Isaac, so like Gungeon would be up my alley. The only time I've ever played it was when you let me give it a shot for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes at your place, and like surprise, I
That's
liked it,
nothing.
but I'm waiting
Yeah.
to get like really dive in.
Yeah, it's a really good game, and there's a ton to do in it. I mean, you can just go as far as to beat the game, which
Well,
is
it's like Isaac. If you really want to
yeah,
beat the game or get the trophies, then you'll be there for a while. But it's also the kind of game you could just kind of let me just run through the dungeon real quick, like endlessly.
yeah. There's so much to do in this game. So I mean, you could beat the game, which isn't really beating the game, and then you can kill your past, which
Yeah.
is like the big achievement for a character. But then you can go on to beat one more level after that with every character if you
Mm-hmm.
wish. I've beaten the game. I've killed the past with one character. And I kind of fell off after that because I like
You've seen
that
an
is a big
ending,
achievement.
yeah.
That is every character has a specific ending, so
Okay.
it's worth that. I beat it with the Marine, and surprise, it was like a Doom like scenario was his
Sure.
past, which was pretty cool. But there every character has a vastly different past to kill,
Well, that's cool. That's like the
which is pretty
reverse of
cool.
Isaac, where like you
Yeah.
have a bunch of characters, but who you beat the game with doesn't really matter. It's how you beat the game, like which boss is the final boss that determines which of your like 10 or 11 or something endings you get.
Yeah, so what happens? I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because it's kind of an homage more than anything. But when you beat the Marines, he looks like the Doom Marine, but only in blue. Um,
Well, sure. I mean, that was the.
yeah.
Oh, you mean the regular character portrayal anyway. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So what happens is the people that are going to the Gungeon have a regret of some kind
Mm-hmm.
from their past, and that's why they want to kill their past. So what it turns out, the reason why you're there is during the transporter malfunction from Doom,
Oh, from Doom
um,
3 then.
basically,
Yeah, like the remake of Doom 1, kind of, sort of.
yeah, something looks very suspiciously like an imp.
Yeah,
It might
yeah,
as well
yeah.
just be a Doom imp.
Mm-hmm.
Comes through and essentially kills everybody on your space station.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty much what happened.
what ended up happening in the original version of the timeline is that you jettisoned and didn't stay to fight.
Oh.
And so you left all of your brothers to like die while fighting that.
So your
fighting
Gungeon
the hordes of
ending is
hell.
you made what actually happened in Doom canon? Like, you just kicked ass?
Yeah,
All of your brothers
stuck.
still died, but you kicked ass?
No. You stuck behind and fought and saved everybody.
Ooh,
So
hey.
so it's pretty much like a wish fulfillment kind of thing.
That's
but
amusing.
it was a lot of fun. The thing is, the stakes are extremely high during a kill the past moment, because what needs to happen is you need to beat like the boss of like the Enter the Gungeon game, which is difficult, very, 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 very difficult.
Of course.
And then once you get to your pass, you actually have to beat that boss of your pass, and it's made to be not as hard as the boss you just fought.
Yeah, it's like just go through the motions to make it happen.
You could still die and like invalidate your playthrough.
Yeah, well, it makes me think of Demon Souls. The real final boss is the second to last boss. The actual last one is like, just do it.
Exactly.
Just finish the game.
Exactly, but you could feasibly die during, trying to kill your past, and that sucks.
In
because
Demon Souls, you can die, but you really shouldn't.
Yeah,
you kind of have to let it happen.
I didn't die while fighting him, so luckily. But yeah, I was just so satisfying when I did it that I was just like, okay, well, I can go back and beat this with the other characters, but I had so much fun doing this one time.
Sure.
And it built up a lot to that, because like I needed to learn the skills to like beat the bosses, with and get all the right combinations of power ups in order to fight the last boss well and all that stuff. So anyway, good stuff. I can't wait for that. Next item on here is another iOS and Android game. I normally don't talk about them, but I'm kind of hoping that there is a console like follow up to this, like the company that owns the copyright to these things is thinking, oh, maybe I'll put these on Switch eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So Tau Plan games have started to show up on iOS and Android, including Twin Cobra. So I don't know if you ever heard of an NES game called Tiger Heli.
I've heard the name. But I was thinking of just Cobra, where you're a helicopter.
Yeah. So that is the game.
Okay.
Like Cobra is. You're thinking of the sequel to Scramble?
I don't know. I think I might have this wrong, but isn't Cobra where you have to like pick up fuel as you play the level?
Yes. So that's Super Cobra.
Okay.
Which this makes this confusing. That's a side-scrolling game that is the sequel to Scramble from Konami.
Okay.
This is kind of the sequel to Tiger Heli or Fire Shark. Those are two early Tau Plan shmups. A lot of the people that were programmed games for Tau Plan, they later made Batsugun and a lot of other really great shmups later on. But a lot of those guys moved on to form Cave later on.
Okay.
So Tau Plan also made Tatsujin or Truxton, the game with the skull bomb.
Yeah, the thing that's prominently featured in the back of the box. I was like, yo.
Yeah, people widely consider that game to be one of the foundational bullet hell games. Mm-hmm. So all of a lot of really great shmups came out of Tau Plan, and then later the baby teams that came out of those, Rising and Aiding and a few other teams, mm-hmm. And Cave all ended up doing really cool things. But Twin Cobra is on iOS and Android. It's ad driven, so I think it's free, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I hope that one day they just they make either a collection or they do ACA releases, Arcade Archives releases, because they made some really fantastic games, and there aren't too many, especially of their early titles, there aren't too many arcade perfect versions of them.
Yeah.
So I would really like to finally see some arcade perfect stuff outside of MAME. The really funny thing about Tau playing games is for a really long time, until like maybe only recently, maybe 2-3 years, maybe 5 years at the most, MAME couldn't even play them properly.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So like they couldn't crack the sound emulation for their titles. It was like very difficult to figure out. And in order to play the games with any kind of semblance of accuracy, you needed to download like janky ass like third-party versions of MAME, not even like MAME official. And somebody had like worked out a workaround where they like recorded the sounds.
Oh, jeez.
And so you would need to like download these dedicated sound files that basically would play like a wave file every time you shot or something.
Yeah, it's like the really old Let's Plays where you would just like take a camera and record your TV. It's like
Yeah. I mean like it worked, but like
yeah, well, one day we'll come up with something better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, you couldn't tell because it was doing it so quickly, but obviously, it's not rendering those sounds, like, from a low level or anything like that. There's probably some background sound or whatever, that kind of thing. Like, it just wasn't a perfect thing. Even if it was digitally captured or whatever, it just wasn't perfect. But they got around to fixing those only just recently. So I'm excited that iOS and Android has, accurate things. But, just with anything else that is worth playing, I hope it gets onto a platform that has some sense of preservation. Moving on from that, I guess this kind of fits as well. There were new Arcade Archives titles announced, and I'm actually very excited for pretty much all of these. So, first up is versus Balloon Fight.
Oh, nice.
Now, this one's really cool. This one was worked on by Iwata, one of the very first games that he worked on Nintendo with. And he actually invented or came up with the calculation for floating in this game. And they ended up using that for Mario swimming in the original Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So this is Nintendo's take on Defender, or not Defender, Joust.
Yeah, Joust. Defender. Yeah, Defender was when you're like a plane flying left and right.
Yeah. That one is an inspiration for Resogun, if you played that later on. But
oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, yeah, you're rescuing guys and moving left to right in an
in
infinite
Defender,
scrolling
the
thing.
screen loops because it's strictly 2D, but in Resogun they make it so you're like flying around a large city that justifies the loop.
Yeah. Defender is one of the most difficult classic arcade games that still has cachet. I don't get how people play that game. It's so hard. It's even harder than Robotron, which is very hard. But anyway, versus Balloon Fight is pretty cool because we've gone over a lot of these like Arcade Archives versus versions of like NES games, and sometimes they're worth it and sometimes they're not. Like versus version of Gradius is just NES Gradius, but with like the ability to loop onto a harder difficulty. I mean, like other than the proest of the pro, you're like nobody's gonna care about that, right? Because you would have to beat the game and want to get high scores in that.
Well, I was gonna say the mindset was different back then because high score was why you played. Like there was no beating a game. You beat like level 3 and then you're back on level 1 or something.
I guess my point is that like the arcade version of Gradius already existed. This is like an arcade version of the NES version of Gradius, which is inferior to the version that's already out in the arcade. There's the versus version of Castlevania, which is barely changed at all. There's like very minor things. I think there's like a faster timer or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that was released on as an Arcade Archives title recently. But versus Balloon Fight along with versus Excite Bike are definitely worth it. they are enough of a change on the original titles to warrant playing and exist on their own. So it's more of a variation, or maybe like an expansion pack with those two games. Like they have extra content that isn't in the original game, and different content, I should say. So it's not they aren't replacements for each other. Balloon Fight plays completely different because it is two vertical monitors stacked on top of each other, kind of like the Punch-Out cabinet.
Oh yeah.
So this is really cool because the Balloon Fight, the original version on NES, is a single screen game. So it's a completely different dynamic. So the level designs are different, so it's completely this one's 2 players, so it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. And this is the first time we're getting an official release of that on a console, so that's really, really cool. That's a nice treat. Next one is In the Hunt, which is one of my favorite IREM shmups. Do you know In the Hunt by any chance?
Like I'm pretty bad with shmups, so I don't know In the Hunt.
Okay, so In the Hunt is a submarine shmup. It is done by the team that would later form the Metal Slug team.
Oh, not the Super Mario Land team?
No. But this is a really, really fun game. The graphics are really nice, really good animation. If you see In the Hunt in motion, it very much looks like Metal Slug. Like the art is very similar. A very, very good game. It got very good ports to Saturn and PlayStation back when we were in like high school and that kind of thing, or end of middle school, that kind of era. But this is an arcade perfect version, which is very nice and a modern version. So very happy about that. I will buy the hell out of that. It's a very, very good game. It is the middle entry and probably best entry of the IREM submarine trilogy. So they had a game for NES called Sqoon, Sqoon, where you're like a pink submarine, and that's a shmup. And then there's a game for PS2 that was actually really good. It was kind of like an underground hit called Sub Rebellion. I don't know if you ever played that, but that one's a really good one to look out for if you buy PS2 games. But yeah, really cool stuff. Irem really loves submarines for some reason. So moving on. So Bells and Whistles, which is the name of Daytona Twinbee, which is I think the second arcade Twinbee game, which is great. I really love the Twinbee games. This is the Konami shmup that is very similar to Xevious, but it has a cute aesthetic. So what I mean by it plays like Xevious, not only are you shooting like a regular shmup and it's vertical, but you also can bomb stuff on the ground below you. So the Twinbee games were always a lot of fun, and one of Konami's flagship shmup series. So Bells and Whistles is like the obscure American name for this game that I think may have had a stealth release in the U.S. Maybe very few exist of that arcade board. So this is kind of a treat that we're getting a port of that. Hyper Sports, which is a Konami sequel to Track and Field. Also a lot of fun. I love the Track and Field games. They're a lot of fun, especially if you're playing 2-player. And this one's very nice. The original Frogger.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like the original Frogger a lot, and you don't see a lot of ports of it for one reason or another. I think there's a lot of rights issues for Frogger, and you never really see like Konami talk about Frogger, which is kind of funny.
It's interesting because everybody knows what it is, and you see clones all the time, but just Frogger, It's one of those games where it's almost like the Mandela effect. It's like, but no, of course I've seen Frogger everywhere. Like, have you really though, or do you just know it really well?
Well, there was a really popular remake of it on the PlayStation era, like that they made a really pretty cool version of it then, but it was made by Hasbro. It wasn't made by Konami. It must have been licensed or something. And if I remember right, the original publishing of Frogger was done by SaGa in the United States, like the arcade cabinet. So like Konami must have some weird rights issues with it.
I saw a Frogger arcade cabinet once. Do you know when it was?
On Seinfeld.
Yeah, when George Costanza couldn't save it.
It has one of the coolest marquees. Have you ever seen the marquee, like the picture of it?
Don't think so.
Okay, so it has so they try to give you a little context for why this frog might be running to from one side of the road to the other. They have him in like business casual, like running like dodging a tire, but like so basically he has a briefcase and a tie on.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like that old art. It's really neat. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Frogger. It's one of the seminal classics of that era, along with Pac-Man and a lot of other games from that era. It's definitely a foundational title, and definitely one that still is in pop culture. For whatever reason, people know what Frogger is, but haven't played it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like you played Pac-Man, but have you played Frogger? But there are plenty of games that like are very similar to it, like Crossy Road.
Yeah.
Crossy Road is Frogger, but like for your cell phone. That was a really popular game on iOS and Android. So I'm happy that this game is around because it is a classic. It's still fun to play today. So it's still hard as balls, but it's still a lot of fun. Moving on from that, I just quickly wanted to announce this, but apparently I kind of never thought about this, but I guess it would be true. But Xbox has never seen a Yakuza game.
No, they've been PlayStation exclusive for like a decade, and it was shocking when 01 and maybe Kiwami 2 went on to Steam. That was like incredible. I don't even know if Kiwami 2's on there, but it's 0 and 1 for sure.
They are.
Kiwami 1.
Yeah.
But like that was like mind blowing. And going on to Xbox is like, I guess it's not a far cry from PC, but that's still really shocking. It's not like a Nintendo Microsoft deal. It's SaGa and probably Sony, like, and Microsoft.
Yeah, so Yakuza 0, Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2 are coming to Xbox One, just to clarify. So I those are certainly like some of the best ones in the recent era as well. So it's pretty cool that they're doing that. It kind of stinks that probably 6 isn't going to make it, or any of the remakes that they're making, for 3, 4, and 5. I think are the remakes, right?
Yeah,
the remasters of 3, 4, and 5. They haven't announced that, but maybe they haven't even announced this for PC, so I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But
3, 4, and 5 have been PS3 exclusive the whole time, and only now they're finally coming to PS4. 3 is already there. I forgot it. 4 might be there now. I don't know if 5's out yet though.
3 and 4 are already out.
Okay.
4 just released recently, I think.
4 is brilliant.
But I'm waiting for the physical copy.
Yeah, so am I.
To come out, because it comes with a PS3
case for 3. That's great.
For 5, which is really cool.
That's fantastic.
It was just really neat.
Finally.
It's like after all these years. Another one of the another announcement was made here. So Alpha System, which you may know as the Castle of Shikigami company, my favorite terribly voice acted game.
And it's a shoot 'em up, but one of those games just has like Time Gal as a playable character, which is crazy. She can time freeze temporarily.
I think it's Castle of Shikigami 3 has Time Gal.
2 was the one with the bad voice acting, and 3 was, I think, a step up.
No, 3 was actually a respectable localization.
Okay.
To my chagrin. Castle of Shikigami 2 quite possibly has the most like terrible voice acting all in one spot.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Chaos Wars is the
Chaos
only
Wars
thing
was
that...
like literally the devs' like immediate family, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or
like
the
a sister and
localizer's
shit.
family or something.
Yeah, nah.
Like, oh my
But
god.
Chaos Wars is up there too.
That was like King's Quest V. It's just the people who made the game just did the voice acting, so like quality varies.
Yeah, but I'm excited because Alpha System is still making games, which is great. But yeah, they have a new shmup coming out called Sisters Royale, and they announced physical pre-orders for that game, which is really neat. Alpha System makes great games. Despite the localization of Castle Shikigami 2, it is a really fun shmup. I really like it, and that's part of the reason why I like it as a bad voice acting game, because like the gameplay is fun, but you get to enjoy this beautiful crap in between.
Well, yeah,
which is
it's like
great.
Metal Wolf Chaos. Like the gameplay's all right, and then you hear the dialogue between levels. So yes.
So yeah, they make good titles. So I'm sure Sisters Royale was going to be at least a very good shmup.
Do you think in America it's called
that.
Sisters Quarter Pounder?
With cheese?
No, they didn't say cheese.
Royale with cheese.
Why would you say that? Yeah.
Sisters Royale with cheese. But no, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah. I'm interested, but like I don't know. I've kind of fallen up a little bit on shmups, but I'm gonna try to keep up, and I'll probably end up getting that eventually. I hope that Esperade is the one that comes out with a localized release, because I'm over importing, man.
Yeah, it's rough.
I mean, like, we used to have to do it, you know what I mean? And now I've gotten so spoiled that we don't really have to, do it much anymore, which is pretty cool. But it's always more expensive, and
Yep.
especially because, like, in Japan they pay more for games anyway.
Yeah, and the international shipping.
Yeah, so I don't, and like you're always buying it through like a company that knows that you are willing to pay a premium to play your game. So I'm sure there's quite a bit of markup on top of it all. So this is definitely a title that is going to be on my radar, but I hope I have a localized version so I don't have to put up with some bull. But moving on from this, Obsidian is kind of knocking it out of the park lately. They recently released their title that's kind of like Fallout. I forget what it's called. Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds, yeah.
Yeah, Outer Worlds. And apparently everybody loves that game. Like, everybody who plays it is in love with it.
Yeah, it turns out if the game fucking works, it gets a little more popular.
Well, they made a much smaller in scale game.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the key with them. It's a much more condensed game, but it apparently is an amazing title. So I'm really really happy about that. But they announced a brand new game like already, shortly after the release of this game. So it's called Grounded. Did you see the video or the stills for this?
No.
So it looks really neat. So I guess basically the concept is similar to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, like the movie. So like you are these kids that are miniature sized in like a backyard somewhere.
Oh wow, okay.
And like you come across like household items that are just gigantic for you, like baseballs and it's dangerous to be around bugs and things like that, and even something as simple as like a sprinkler is something dangerous, as it's a first-person shooter. It looks really cool and fantastic, especially if you remember the original Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which used to be like one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. Yeah, it was just really cool. You felt really bad, with the ant in that. Um, it looks fun. I mean, like you're fighting bugs and looking to survive while fighting bugs and all this stuff. So, and it looks like it has a like a building mechanic, which is pretty cool. Kind of like a Fortnite kind of thing going on. But I'm not sure if it's multiplayer or single player, but it looks like it might have a couple different modes. So I don't think it's coming out spring 2020. I don't think they specified much else other than what I say. So it's pretty cool though. So there's a little bit of crafting involved, but it looks like it's going to be fun. Moving on from that, new SaGa Ages title was announced. We know that Shinobi is on its way to North America pretty soon, but the new title that got announced recently was the original Fantasy Zone, which I'm excited about. This. The original Fantasy Zone has been ported perfectly several times, but probably its best version was on the 3DS, where it had a few extra features. There was a whole bunch of really cool refinements done on that 3DS version, so they're bringing that to the Switch, which is probably the coolest news. That they added extra bosses to the game. It's not just the arcade title. It's a severely enhanced version of the game. So I'm very, very, very happy. Apparently, there's like a hard mode that you could go into, and just like a lot of other really cool stuff. You could play, of course, the original arcade game without the extra bosses added and all that kind of stuff too. So I'm excited just because I love classic Sega stuff in general. I forgot to tell you, Lotus. I played a little bit of HG101 only a little while ago. Remember that it was one of the more recent titles that they released for Sega Ages?
I don't think so.
HG101 is like a spin-off of the Bonanza Brothers.
Oh, I think okay, yeah.
Yeah, it came out alongside the Columns, the version of Columns that came out on the Sega Ages. Well, it was actually a really fun game. It turns out that it's very similar to kind of like a WarioWare kind of game. So it's like a bunch of mini games, and you have to figure out what to do. So it's very similar to WarioWare or whatever. There's some weirdness to it, and it's a lot of fun. So I did want to follow up on that one title. But yeah, Fantasy Zone. Good stuff. Moving on from that, I wanted to give a quick plug to our friends of the show. Kurt Collada recently just started shipping his Japanese video games obscurities for Hardcore Gaming 101. So I'm very excited about that. I'm waiting for my copy to be shipped. But this was a long awaited title. Like he put a lot of love into this, and I think this one's hardcover, right? Isn't this one hardcover?
It's been a while, but it might be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is probably his first hardcover title, but he put a lot of love into this one, and it took him a long time to get this funded on through the crowd sourcing app that he was using. I forget which one it was. It wasn't Patreon like all of his other titles. It was like was it Bounded, something like that?
I don't know.
But yeah, this one apparently has some really obscure titles in it that even maybe Lotus and I won't even know. So I'm excited for it. But I can already notice some ones on the front cover here. I see Umehara Kawase. I see the penguin from some of the Konami titles. I see the chibi version of Rick from Slaughterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti.
Splatterhouse.
Yeah. Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti. The SD, the
regular Famicom game.
Yeah, that game's a lot of fun. And Goemon as well. So I love me some Goemon. So we're waiting for this one. I think it's shipping from England. Does that sound right?
I have no idea what the details are.
Yeah, but I'm excited, and all of his books are a delight. So
They really are.
They're well put together. Even if you've been reading his articles on his website, they're still very pleasing to read and to look at. And usually there's some exclusive content to some degree as well. So you will not be upset with it. Let's just put it that way. Moving on from that, I've been talking about the Mister Project, which is an FPGA system that has many different cores made for it for many different kinds of systems. And it recently got an official case. What's been happening with it so far is that you kind of had to buy essentially what amounts to a bunch of PC parts and cobble them together in order to make this thing work. And then there have been some fans who have like done 3D printed cases and things like that that you could get. But there are like official like metal cases for them now, so they look a lot. It is starting to be a really good time in order to buy these things, and a lot of the shortcomings of the platform have been ironed out. Like now there is an off-on switch. There didn't used to be an off-on switch. You used to have to unplug it and plug it back in order to turn it off.
Jeez.
So yeah, like it's always been a hobbyist kind of system. It was never meant to be like a commercial product like that. But this is really cool. Apparently the NES FPGA core in there is like extremely accurate. It's like everybody's saying that it's like one of the probably the most accurate simulation of an NES, which is really neat. And there are new cores being made all the time for arcade boards now, so that's what I'm really excited about. Like hardware, hardware like accurate representations of old arcade games is like way up my alley. So I feel like I'm probably going to get a Mister one of these days, sometime soon coming up. The problem is that there's a bit of a startup cost to them. They're $200 to $300 if you want like a full one, which I think it's worth it, but it's still I need to have the money for it. Yeah, exactly. Moving on from that, I did want to talk about this briefly. Did you hear about the Shenmue review embargo?
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of games have review embargoes, which kind of bothers me. Like, on one hand, no spoilers, but, like, on the other hand, like, they're fucking reviews. Like, if you have to make people wait to, like, after they bought the games to read reviews, it defeats the purpose of reviews.
Yeah, but this one's a little bit more unusual. Usually, if it's a game that they want to keep a type lid on, they'll say, like, the day of is when the embargo lifts. Do you know when the embargo lifts for Shenmue 3?
Wasn't it weird? Like, it was like 2 days or something?
2 days after launch date.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. It's like...
It's ridiculous.
Like, reviews are for helping people determine whether they should buy the games or not. So, like, what are you doing?
So that makes me think they're very scared. Which is usually what happens.
I mean... People still like Shenmue 1, and there's no fucking way that Shenmue 3 is going to be more dull than that, so I don't know what they have to worry about. And this is coming from someone who beat Shenmue 1 twice.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that it's going to be short.
I hope it is.
Well, there you go. You don't hope that there's lots of mundane tasks to do?
I don't care about mundane tasks. I care about waiting between every fucking thing in the game. Like, Shenmue 2 apparently has, like, a time speed-up option, which is, like... That crippled Shenmue 1, not having that. Yeah. Also the fact that on the remasters, you can save any time, that is, like... That's unbelievable.
Way
like,
better.
Thank God.
You don't have to run home and
yeah, I don't have to, like, load the game and then run all the way to town and then wait for the store to open. It's painful on the Dreamcast.
Yeah. Well, I think they're scared, especially since like one of the things that made Shenmue 1 and 2 a lot of fun was that they were also nostalgia like driven. So like a lot of what was cool was that you could collect like Sonic memorabilia and things like that in the
Oh
game.
sure, yeah, and you
You
could
could play
play Space
Harrier,
Harrier.
yeah,
Yeah.
and all that stuff is going to be missing from Shenmue 3. It's kind of be going to be left on its own, you
It
know.
will honestly feel really weird if you can't get gotcha toys. Like that was
Yeah.
like it has nothing at all to do with the plot, but it's a bigger part of the original games than you might think because it's just kind of like a
Yeah.
cool thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to put yourself back in the mindset of when these games came out. Like there was nothing like that at the time where you could kind of like explore a realistic world, and do realistic mundane things that were still pretty fun.
Yeah, like we've said this
Um,
before, but like even though the attitude of the game is very different from Yakuza, Shenmue has a lot of features that Yakuza would adapt. Shenmue was kind of like
yep.
the proto Yakuza, except it was more about experiencing real life. But a lot of gameplay mechanics are well, not gameplay mechanics, but a lot of features are surprisingly similar, including QTEs to make battles cooler,
UFO catchers, arcades.
chasing down people to catch them. In Shenmue, it was QTE. In Yakuza 4, maybe even 3, it was like you're actually moving left and right and dodging obstacles in real time. And in later games, they actually made it so you have to press a button to like vault over a car or a fallen bike or something. Like Shenmue did that in like the early 2000s. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I mean, I'm going to buy it, obviously.
I mean,
Actually,
I backed it. I've been waiting for like like 6 or 7 years or something.
so it's kind
Maybe
of
not that
funny.
long.
I backed it too, but it turns out that so much time had passed in between, like the Kickstarter and them charging me, that my credit card had gone bad, and I just didn't get the notification.
Ah, that sucks.
So I actually am not a backer anymore. So
Well, I didn't get charged at least.
yeah. So I'm just gonna buy the
You could have gotten the
the
limited run game physical version.
I'm gonna get a different physical version, like the one that
You just
is
go to the
gonna be
store.
released
Yeah.
on Amazon. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, that I'm not that upset. It's just like,
Yeah.
huh? I thought I helped out with this thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of like Kickstarters like emails don't get to me because they kind of get filtered
Oh, okay.
um like in my email like as kind of spammy. So I think I kind of have to get around that, because I almost missed like my backer rewards for the Dark Souls board game. Like
Yeah, I'm
I
still waiting for a shipping notification for Wave 3. Like, I've been hesitating to email them about it because they said, like, there's still potential for you to get notification for a shipping notification, like, until we say, like, that's it, they're all out, and they haven't said that yet, but I'm still like,
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Well, here's looking to Shenmue 3. I hope it turns out at least fun, you
Yeah,
know?
I hope it plays like a Yakuza game, except that it's still going to be like a mundane, like going through town and learning experiences. But like, I hope that the just gameplay in general is like tighter than it used to be. I started playing a little bit of Shenmue. It already looks like something of an improvement. Like something happens and then something else happens instead of you've done your one thing, wait until like 7 p.m. to go home. It's like, oh my fucking god. So like there is that. I'm liking the way it starts. So let's hope that Shenmue 3 takes that further.
Yeah. I'm kind of just my thing about it that I kind of I'm kind of weirded out by it is that, like, apparently they don't complete the
Oh yeah, that's what I heard. It's not the
they don't
conclusion of the
complete the
story.
story. Yeah, which
Yeah,
is
like, dude,
bullshit.
you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Do I have to wait another 14 years for Shenmue 4?
Uh, it's so annoying.
It blows my mind that, like, 14 years later, guess what, guys? We're finally doing it. And then it's still just another episode. Like, that drives me crazy.
Ugh. What an
Like,
annoyance.
how epic is this saga gonna be?
Yeah. No, it's very annoying. Like, I don't think he'll ever finish it, which is really dumb.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
that's the thing with Yakuza is that each game is its own self-contained story.
yeah.
Like there's no like what's gonna happen next. Every time you beat a Yakuza game, the series could end there.
I don't know, man. It's just one of those things that, like, you just kind of shake your head at. You know what I mean? Like, it's like X-Files. You finally have a chance to wrap up your story,
Oh,
and
the movie?
yeah, like the second movie.
Yeah.
You just squander
Yeah.
your chance to finish up your story, which is all that anybody cares about. And then they make a new season, and then they still don't finish it. It's just like, what are you? What, like, you're getting
Yeah.
so many extra chances, and there's so much time in between each of these things.
Yep.
And you're just pissing people off now. So yeah. I just hope that it turns out at least okay. That's all I'm saying. Moving on, the Mega Man Zero and ZX collection is delayed until February 25th. And what they want to do is they want to make the game emulation more accurate and better. I am okay with this.
Yeah.
I'm way more happier about this outcome than a botched launch.
Yeah.
Or, having to wonder whether they're ever going to fix this kind of thing. So it also came out on Twitter that, like, a lot of Mega Man fans are really nice, which, maybe the Pokemon fans can, learn
Pokemon
something from them.
fans can learn any fucking semblance of manners.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Have you tried not being complete assholes about everything?
Well, the Mega Man fans are like, take the time you need. We just want a good game. Like, you guys are working hard, and, like, there are a lot of games to emulate on this thing. Like, go for it. Like, we'll gladly wait. Take your time. Like, people, like, somebody made a post about, like, they captured, like, all the nice things people had to say, and there's just
Nice.
tons of them. So, like, people are being, like, really understanding. So I'm very happy about that. So it seems like good behavior all around. It's not in development hell or anything, so I'm okay with a delay to wrap things up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm totally cool with it. Moving on, there are the final updates for Shovel Knight are coming out on December 10th, and there's tons of them. Like, really big stuff. So first of all, there is an Amiibo 3-pack coming out with Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, and King Knight, which are all really cool Amiibos to have. They're probably the coolest.
Spectre and Plague especially.
Yeah, I really like Spectre and Plague. They're both my two favorite boss characters.
You know what would actually be pretty great is having Tinker Knight, and he's just like the tiniest thing. It's like, what are you doing? I know for the real thing they would have his like big machine, but it'd be just funny to have this tiny, stupid little, like, you can't even see it, like, amiibo.
Well, I'm always a fan of amiibos that aren't Nintendo characters necessarily.
Oh, sure.
They're actually, like, my favorite thing to collect. I like collecting the I think a lot of people call them guest characters because of this, like, the way the Smash ones get released. I love almost all. I have almost all of them, and I really love them. There's a couple that I'm not really interested in. Like, there's like a Diablo amiibo that I missed out on, but I'm okay with that. But these ones are really cool. I'm a big fan of Shovel Knight to begin with, and I have the original Shovel Knight amiibo. There's also a single gold variant of Shovel Knight coming out as well. I'm not very excited about that, to be honest. I don't usually like the variants. to tell you the truth. I have one of the rarest amiibos. I think one of the most expensive amiibo right now is the Gold Mega Man one that came with a Mega Man Legacy Collection for DS. That one's very very sought after. I think it's over $100 right now. It is probably one of my least favorite amiibos. I like the original look of Mega Man. Like I like him, with his his face and his blue everything. But like when he's just covered in gold, it kind of takes it away from me.
Yeah, it's like Gold Mario. It just looks like a statue.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care about that. I mean, I might be in the minority here, but I like the design of Mega Man. Like, I would like maybe variations of him, where he has like a different power, but this is just like all of it's gold. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even his face is his correct color and all that stuff. So, anyway, the updates are coming. Are the King of Cards expansion, which is the entire campaign for the King Knight, which is cool, and the Shovel Knight Showdown, which is kind of like the Smash Brothers thing that they're adding. That's all coming out on December 10th. I'm excited, and like if you already own the game, this is all free, except for the amiibos, of course. But like the updates like are all coming to all of your versions of the game, the PC version, all that stuff, except for like the legacy consoles that aren't being updated anymore. Like Vita. I don't think is getting this update. I don't think the 3DS version is getting it. But the Xbox One, the Switch, PS4, and PC are all getting these updates, which is really cool. So that's really, really awesome stuff. I really loved Shovel Knight, and I didn't really beat any of the expansions, so I'm thinking it might be time to jump back in. And this is the final bit of news from me. Romancing Saga Remaster actually finally got released, which is apparently very long awaited by a lot of retro gamers. This is like a really popular Super Famicom game that never got a proper official US release. So Romancing Saga 3 is one of the sequels to the SaGa games, or Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3. Those are all SaGa games. So this is apparently the most popular entry in the entire series, and apparently very fun and very unusual. So it's the series has its ups and its downs, though. So don't like play every title in the series for sure. Like Unlimited Saga is an unmitigated disaster even back then. Even today, nobody has any love for it. Like, do you remember when Unlimited Saga came out? How much of a disaster it was?
Nah, I never paid attention to SaGa games.
Okay. Well, some of the series is very odd. It's made by the director of Final Fantasy II, which is considered widely to be the worst Final Fantasy. Yeah, no, it's not forgettable. It's known for being terrible.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah,
that's the one I know the least about.
So yeah, and I'm not talking about 2 on the SNES, which is really 4. I'm talking about the actual Final
NES number 2. Yeah.
It's the one where you can like the game encourages you to attack your own characters to like get experience points.
Oh, that's funny because Disgaea will take you to a bad end if you do that enough.
Yeah, no, like I think that's a commentary on Final Fantasy II specifically.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, it's made by this guy named Kawase, who has all these really goofy ideas about how like RPGs should function. So, but apparently this game is a lot of fun. Like Jeremy Parish of Retronauts fame has been talking it up. So, but it's still a little confusing. So you could definitely look up a guide. But it's still cool that they released this on modern consoles. It's on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, PC, Vita, iOS, and Android. Jesus, in English, all of these. A Vita release this day and age. Jeez.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. So, and some people really like SaGa Frontier, the two games for PlayStation 1. So, that's all I have, Lotus. Do you have anything that you want to quickly mention before we move on?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, well, that is going to be the show for this week. We want to please remind you to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. Catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and no longer Battle.net because Destiny 2 has moved on to its own platform.
And you can find me at my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting involved in conversations with me and other patrons, then on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Okay, well, we will catch everybody on Thursday for another episode of Corrective Consciousness, where we go over some catching up of childhood memories. So we'll give you a little bit of a tease as to what we're going to be doing on Thursday. But just, if you ever thought of something that you basically heard of in passing when you were a kid and then didn't get a chance to catch up on it until later, this is the exact kind of thing that we were talking about. So we'll catch you on Thursday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.